Good afternoon. We will talk about why is China still the global manufacturing leader. We found this article very interesting because they give us a short brief about how China is still number one in manufacturing. In our opinion, according to the article, we think China is and will be number one in manufacturing. The main reason is because of its low cost on workforce. They don't have to pay high salaries to their employees. They have the advantage that there are many Chinese willing to work regardless of lower pay. My teammate Diana says, because of the cheap Chinese labor, and because China boosts its manufacturing competitiveness and attracts more investments. My teammate Katia says, China is a manufacturing leader because it has a very cheap force. It has a very cheap labor force. Even if its manufacturing prices are rising, it is still cheaper to produce in China than in other countries. And they are more efficient than many other rivals. Besides, China wants to remain the leader and to host more of the supply chain so can boost its manufacturing competitiveness and attracts more investments. According to the theory of comparative advantage, countries with lots of cheap workers should produce labor-intensive goods, while in rich countries should focus on those requiring plenty of capital. Asia has a huge lead in manufacturing because it has a lot of labor capital, and half of its huge share of the global trade came from China. Or another team says, because they are too fast doing their jobs and has hard-working people. They fulfill what they proposed, so that's why they still being the leaders. Also, they're cheap and they are smart. They start working since they were little. Jose says, another teammate, the region's share of the global trade in parts rose from 14% in 20s to 50% in 2012, half of which came from China. By hosting more of the supply chain, China boosts its manufacturing competitiveness and attract more investments. China factories are still far cheaper than Western rivals, despite wage rising 12% a year from a decade. Many pay their employees just above the minimum wage, which $270 a month in China is less than a 4 quarters in the United States, and they are more efficient than many rivals. As we conclude, all our teammates conclude to the same answer. The labor cost in China is cheaper, and that's the reason China will still be a number one in global manufacturing. His economy is rising. Also, I would like to agree, in the website we find a very interesting fact. China produces about 80% of the world's air conditioners, 70% of mobile phones, and 60% of its shoes. The white heat of China has foregone supply chains that reach deep in the Southeast Asia. The factory Asia now makes almost half the world's goods. That's an amazing fact. One of the reasons China will still be the number one. As we conclude, labor costs and people are willing to work with less pay. Thank you.
In the question number 2, why China is introducing robots at an accelerated pace, we think as well that they do their work in a simple manner. They also are coordinated until you stop them, and because they want to improve their productivity, and because they have pressure to improve the working conditions for workers, giving the reputation for sweatshops.